In a surprising move, Russell Westbrook has capped off a legendary and historic career just today. And honestly, Russell Westbrook has been one of the focal points of the NBA for a very long time. He's been in so many different rivalries. He's been in the driver's seat for many different championship caliber teams. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to get those championships, but he has done a lot since he's gotten into the league. Starting when he went to Oklahoma City Thunder, partnered with Kevin Durant, and being the person, the go-to person for a lot of the offense, being able to move and get people around. He was seen as a very explosive guy, a guy that could really attack the rim, attack defenses, and use his speed to be one of the best players on the court. He was ferocious. He was one of the best at his position at that time, and he really catapulted a Supersonics who, they didn't really have much going on outside of Kevin Durant, and they've really been in the shadows for a long time ever since Ray Allen left. But he came to that team right after they went to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and he basically revitalized it. He gave it so much passion and so much fire that they were missing. He is like the rocket that they really, really needed and really deserved out there in Oklahoma City, because at that point in time, Oklahoma didn't really have much going on as well. But they needed that booster. They needed that guy, that it factor outside of Kevin Durant to kind of be a part of that city, be a part of that franchise. And Russell Westbrook, with the passion that he brought every single game, one of the most Iron Man people in the league, in league history, playing so many games in the league, being able to be consistently relied upon, being able to consistently be the person that can play in a game, the person that will give you exactly what you think he'll give you and some. And honestly, it has been such a treat to watch his game, such a treat to watch him play. And I'm really excited with what he's going to do after basketball. But let's look at the totality of his career. He's one of the few guys that got the NBA MVP. He got it all the way back in 2016-2017 season, where he was just doing phenomenal things. And he didn't really stop there, because after that season, he kept averaging triple doubles. I mean, he went to Washington, and many people don't even remember that Washington stint because he's been on a few teams so far. But he went to Washington and was averaging a triple double. Went to the Houston Rockets and was doing great there, and going to the Clippers as well. But having those seasons where he was averaging a triple double, that was something that we've never seen before. And of course, you have Jokic that came in, is going to take his chain very quickly. But averaging a triple-double as a guard, getting all those rebounds as a guard, and making sure that everybody on the team is getting what they need. He was he was an enigma. He was somebody that was obviously pushing the envelope for his team to become better. One of the few underrated floor raisers in the NBA, because many people just look at him, look at the shot attempts and whatnot, but he was always getting his teammates involved, always putting pressure in the paint, which opens up a lot of on the perimeter, a lot of people to attack closeouts and whatnot. And so his triple-double seasons, he averaged an NBA record, 11 consecutive games with a triple-double, 209 career triple-doubles as an NBA record, 42 triple-doubles in the 2016-2017 season. I mean, this guy was absolutely ferocious, absolutely on it. And I think one of the biggest travesties in his career is that the closest he ever was to winning a championship was right before Kevin Durant did the worst move in basketball history and leaving him in Oklahoma, and then just basically forcing him to pick up the scraps, pick up the pieces, because there was really nothing left for him to do there without that number one piece, that other guy that he could really rely upon to get him back to where he needs to be. The Oklahoma City Thunder was really close into, stamping themselves as a championship team, but Kevin Durant had other things going on for him, and when he did that, it was really a tough time for Russell Westbrook, because Russell Westbrook was basically left in the dust. He didn't really have a good explanation of why Kevin Durant was leaving, but also he leaving to the team that just beat them when they were up in that series and when they had a chance to really knock them out and get things going. But because of that, you basically ruined the championship hopes that Russell Westbrook had. And then his next best opportunity was when he went to the Houston Rockets. But that Houston Rockets team, which, carried by James Harden and having one of the best offensive seasons of all time, was simply too weak to go against that Golden State Warriors team. Unfortunately, he just didn't have the juice. They just didn't have the juice, even though it worked well on paper. They just wasn't good enough to go against anybody of that caliber, of that sort. And then, of course, losing to the Lakers in the bubble, that just didn't really help at all either. But Russell Westbrook, through all of that, through all of the ups and downs of his careers, having teammates come and go, having teammates not, fill their roles and exactly what they want to be, he still brought the same energy every single time. Every single night he was phenomenal within these games. And as a fan, one thing that you love to see is not only the fact that your player, one of your favorite players, could be really good or whatever the case may be, but a person who will be there consistently every single night giving you 100% effort. I feel like the fans believe nowadays that these NBA players don't give that 100% effort, but whenever there's a player that does, they typically gravitate towards him as a charming individual, as a person who will be able to kind of bring in more fans into the stadium, bring in more life to the team. Now, I know that he had multiple offers and being able to stay with the Sacramento Kings or going to the Washington Wizards, where he would be playing basically a reduced role. And I really do understand where he looked at those options. He looked at the fact that, he won't be at least the guy that they'll be able to kind of call upon. And he did have a stint at the Denver Nuggets where he was the guy that, you could play him in a very limited role capacity. But is that something that he really wants? He's more so kind of like a 1A type guy, a guy that really wants to be the driving force of an offense. And, when you go to Sacramento, that's basically a dying team. You got him, Zach LaVine, and DeMar DeRozan, and basically a bunch of scraps outside of that. And the team that should be good on paper just simply aren't good enough because they're just, they just don't mesh well. And so you have that as your opportunity for one more season. And then you also have the Washington Wizards, where the Wizards are in a very interesting space where they have basically their guard already in Trae Young and a big already in Anthony Davis and then AJ Depanancia. And so it's just like, where do you really fit on that team? Do you want to stay in that type of limited role, in that type of limited role capacity? And I just think he was like, I've done so much in my career. I've done the most that I possibly can do. I gave it all. And so this is my time to actually go out on my own terms. And him coming out with that video talking about, how his career, nothing left to be said because he gave it all on the court. I think that was absolutely a beautiful tribute to what he has been throughout his whole career. He has been a guy that you never have to question ever. He's been a guy that you never have to question his motive, or he's been a guy that you could rely upon in the clutch, or when you need a couple buckets here and there, or a guy that really could get his teammates involved. He was a guy that you could be energetic in seeing every single night because he gave it his all. And the real sad thing about his career is that he won't have a championship. But in all honesty, championship is not the end-all be-all to a NBA career or anything like that, as much as fans kind of want it to be. For me, the best way to kind of honor your career is doing what Russell Westbrook did. Giving yourself 100% effort as much as you possibly can each game that you play, because you won't always be the best player. You won't always be the best player on the court. You won't always be the best player in the league. But one thing that you can always tap your head to is the fact that you can give the 100% effort every single time, as much as your body can allow it. And that's what exactly Russell Westbrook is. And so I believe that Russell Westbrook is going to leave a really good legacy, not only just for himself, but also kind of like a platform for other players to look at themselves as that. And I feel like he's already kind of, shaped that mold already. Not necessarily like these players like a Josh Hart or Jose Alvarado, like they're not necessarily the type of player Russell Westbrook was, especially at his peak. But in the sense that you look at these players like a Davion Mitchell as well, these players who you will always see an excess amount of effort that looks and feels a lot more than anybody else on the court, that feels a little bit more energetic than everybody else on the court, that looks like they won it regardless if they mess up or not. And I think that Russell Westbrook is going to be a very outspoken voice, especially for players, because even when he was in his career and he had multiple spats within the media, he's always been a pro player type of guy, pro player type of person. And I think you definitely need that, especially in these day and ages where it seemed like the older generation of basketball fans or even basketball players are just simply using their opportunity to, live in the nostalgia that they lived in when they were younger and use that against the players of today. When I think we need more people to kind of look at the players of today and really appreciate them. And so I believe that Russell Westbrook is going to be that guy, that voice that will lead kind of like the next generation, because I feel like my generation of NBA players are really more receptive of the oncoming generation, like the AJ Debancias, the Darren Petersons, Zions, and so on and so forth. I think that there's a lot of talent in there that will, catapult the NBA to higher heights. And you can only do that when you appreciate the person that Russell Westbrook was during his career. Every single night, every single game, and whether it be the regular season or playoffs, he was always there, always hungry and ready to compete.